Hey, it's Anthony Meisner with Land Title. I came to bring you your Greater Denver Metro update. And as always, we have this highlight reel. So if you need a couple of good takeaways, they're always in here. But let's dive right into the details. Don't forget, inventory is on the rise. It has been for months, but here we are again. Good news in July is it didn't just spike, right? So here we are another month where it slowed down a little bit. I think we've had a few things come off the market as people are getting a little frustrated. But good news is there's still lots going on under contract and still lots happening. Average sales price for the year over year is 1.6% below this time last year, but everything else is par for the course except for that 54% increase in inventory. Now, check this out. Detached and attached units combined on inventory levels. It is not the same everywhere, but most places are trending the same direction. Jefferson County, Denver County, and Arapahoe County have almost 60% more inventory, where Adams, Broomfield, Douglas, and Elbert all are in the closer to 40% range. So there's definitely a difference in the inventory of where it's taking place. I think the other thing that's really important to look at is what does that even mean for the marketplace, right? So we've had this huge increase, big percentage up, but we're still not even really at 3 months of inventory, right? Just sub 3 months. Now, compared to some of the other markets around, that is pretty tight still. Now, when we were used to 2 weeks and now we're at 3 months, it definitely feels like there's a lot more inventory. And it's definitely more buyer favored than it was. But I would still argue that this is somewhere near balance, maybe at best, for this marketplace across Greater Metro Denver. You're going to see pockets that are huge sellers markets. You're going to see pockets that are big buyers markets. But as a whole, this feels more in balance than it has in a very long time. So that, I guess, is a lot really, this really good news for buyers. Now it's a little tougher for sellers for sure. What does that mean for your sellers? It means that they're going under contract in 31 days on average. It could be anywhere between 27 in Jefferson County and 43 in Elbert County, but we're definitely in that range where you should see this rise through the end of the year, right? This is pretty stereotypical time frame. Now, if we see a drop in interest rates, like is very possible at this point, by fourth quarter, it could end up looking more like a plateau like you saw in 2020. So 2020 was one of those years where interest rates started to drop. You saw it plane off a little bit. So depending on what happens and depending on how many buyers come into the marketplace, you could see this sort of stay steady, which would be a really good sign for all the sellers that are still engaged in the market. Now, by price range, this is where there's been a lot of change. Now, 3+ million market, we were up 18% from this time last year. We had 26 sales. That's pretty good. The 2 to 3 million market was down 19% in sales this last month, but still very reasonable compared to what we see. Most of the drop in sales are taking place in the lower end of the market because people tend to be sitting around and waiting. And I'm not quite sure why, but you definitely are not seeing as engaged median income buyers as you did before. That's where that inventory level is just blooming, right? So under 800,000, under 600,000 especially, you're seeing lots more inventory stay on the market than we've had in years past. Now, what does that mean? It means that month supply of inventory is in that 2 to 3 months range. It feels a lot more balanced. It's way more competitive. You get over a million, you're talking 4 months, 7 months, 9 months of inventory at 3+ million, and there is a lot of inventory sitting up there in the luxury market. But it is still moving, so it's just more competitive than it was before. If they're priced right, if they're buttoned up and they look good and you did a great job presenting them, they tend to be going under contract pretty good if they're in a great location. You can see that definitely at the 3+ million range, where 9 months of inventory, but the days on market are only 24. Now, if you look at the bulk of the market, we're still talking 25 to 30 days in MLS. So that is still fairly competitive, right? We have definitely less buyers than we've had in years past, but even with that added inventory, they are still turning over pretty consistently. Okay, sold analysis. The total number of sales is right in line with where it was this time last year. 3755, very, very close to this time last year. The only big swings in where things have changed is you saw more sales in Broomfield County, in Elbert County, in Jefferson County, and the only drop offs were really in Denver and Douglas County. So there you go. Now, let's talk about average sales price. This is one where it's definitely changed a little bit, right? So year over year, we're basically flat. As we're getting into a more balanced market, flat appreciation year is definitely something I think you should welcome. It just shows you some stability in the Denver metro market. People are definitely interested in living in Colorado still. You can see that even in a tough time. It looks like homes went up on average $6,143 more than this time last year. So very, very similar. Not huge appreciation numbers, but definitely stable. So I like to see that. The attached market, on the other hand, is the opposite. It is actually depreciation just a little bit. So $27,000 less than it was this time last year. Now, if we look at the sold units, you can see here the total number of sold units over the last couple of months has been a little bit more, really stable with this time last year in detached. The attached market is where the softening has been felt, right? Almost 16% year over year decrease in sold units year to date. And I think that that's going to continue until the cost of money changes. So the gold standard is detached single family. If people can, they head that direction. As opportunity arises, more buyers are going that direction too. Location seems to be pretty important, obviously, but they're not willing to sacrifice detached for location at this point. And we're seeing this across all counties that we look at. So that's always interesting to watch. Now, percentage sold price to list price, I use the detached, but they're both pretty similar. Still very competitive. It's summer, 99.2%, but this doesn't take into account concessions or price drops. So a little bit less than this time last year, absolutely, but definitely some optimistic numbers if you are listing a home. Now, you do have to price aggressively, but if you do, you should be able to go under contract without too much of a headache, because buyers that are looking are definitely pretty serious. So, if you have any other questions, you have any other data needs, don't forget to reach out to me. I'm Anthony Land Title, and we'll see you next time. Bye.